Coming up on Theater Talk.
There's no business like no business I know. Even with a turkey that you know will fold, you may be stranded out in the cold, but still you wouldn't change it for a sack of gold. Let's go on with the show.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm the producer, Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
So, Michael, as you know, Time Out New York released a list of the top 25 divas of all time.
And number one, after all these years, without a doubt, is Ethel Merman. She was born Ethel Zimmerman in Queens. She studied stenography, but she had a voice that was bigger than the Canadian brass band. She became famous, of course, on Broadway in Annie Get Your Gun, and most memorably in Gypsy. And we're going to talk about Ethel Merman tonight with two people who were very, very close to her for much of her life. We are joined tonight by our friend Tony Cointreau and Jim Russo. Welcome, guys. When did Ethel Merman come into your life?
She came into my life in 1959 when she was doing Gypsy, and I was 18 years old. Now, you do the math and you're dead meat. I met her, I went to a teenage class at the neighborhood playhouse for teenagers who wanted to study acting, and it was just a summer thing. And I was sitting next to this girl, and she said, "My name's Patty, what's yours?" And at that time, my name was Jacques. Jacques-Henri Robert Antoine Mercier Cointreau. I mean, after the, you know, I survived that.
That's why you fell in love
Took
with him.
Tony, right, 45 years later. But the girl, Patty, next to me, she heard Jacques and she went, ooh. And there was this sweet girl on the other side of her with this little big dark brown eyes and slick pixie haircut. And she leaned over and she looked at me and she said, "Oh, I think Jacques is a beautiful name." Well, we became like that. Great pals. A week later, she comes to me. She says, "Jacques," she said, "you want to go see Mom's play?" I said, "Yeah, what's she doing?" She said, "Gypsy. Mom's Ethel Merman."
Surprise.
I thought, I can do that. So that Friday night, we were at Gypsy, and afterwards, Miss Merman, to me then, took us to Sardi's.
Of course.
And I met an 18-year-old, theater enthusiast, meeting all of show business heaven. Was terrific. And then Billy Rose, the great producer, drove us home in his Rolls Royce.
Not bad.
But on the way home, because we dropped the two Ethels off at the Park Lane
We
Hotel.
should say that Ethel's daughter was Little Ethel.
Little Ethel.
She named her daughter after herself.
She did.
First, there was Ethel Agnes Zimmerman, her mother. Ethel became Ethel Merman, and then Ethel Merman Levitt, her daughter. So
Anyway, you were saying they dropped.
Mr. Rose was driving, we dropped them off, and he was driving me up to 79th and Park. And the most wonderful thing of it was that he was on in years, especially compared to me, and he was talking to me like as he would appear. And he said, that he had known the real Mama Rose, and he said, "What you see on that stage doesn't even come near the real Mama Rose." He said, "She was truly psychotic." Now that's Mr. Rose's words. Those are Mr. Rose's words, not mine.
Jim,
Yes.
we know, the version of Ethel Merman as this incredible voice, the iconic figure of
Yes.
the Broadway sound.
Exactly.
But what was she like when she wasn't on stage?
It's funny. I think of Ethel every single day of my life. I never think of the performer. I think of Ethel, the friend. She was vulnerable. She was shy. She was funny. She was childlike in so many ways. I just adored her.
When you say there was an insecurity there, a vulnerability, I mean,
Oh, there was a
underneath that
vulnerability.
brassy Broadway personality, there was an insecure, little girl from Queens.
Yeah.
You think?
She was always the little girl from Astoria
Yeah.
and a secretary and a great star, all at the same time.
And she lived with her parents until they died, didn't
no,
she?
no,
They were-
she was married.
No, she was married, but didn't
They were close by.
They
The
were- but
parents were
she
always
had her-
close by.
But they
her
were
parents close
always
by.
close.
Always
to
close
her.
by, yes.
Yeah.
Always close.
When she moved to the Berkshire Hotel, she got an apartment for them
Right.
there.
Yeah.
You know, it's, she kept.
And her best friends, too, were always the ones that she had way before the Broadway years.
Really?
When
Her
she
friends
worked.
from Queens, huh?
Yeah,
From school.
yeah.
Now you guys have, when she died, I know I've seen these wonderful papers, the memorabilia you have. You have an amazing collection of Ethel Merman things, and one of the thing I loved the most was her bizarre diary and notebook that has her dental records in
Yes,
it. Tell
it's
us about that.
fascinating.
Well, that was the secretary. She kept notes of everything, everything. And she had another little book that I can't find that had, you see, she was a very spiritual woman. And that's something else people don't know.
Yes.
And well, as a matter of fact, I have a book that will be coming out, a memoir coming out at the end of the year. And it's called Ethel Merman, Mother Teresa, and Me. Because these were the two women of my life who were the most important, who were like mothers, second mothers to me.
You were going to say that there was a record she kept that you can't find.
Oh, well, she
in her
had, well, what she
spirituality?
had, she would find spiritual sayings, and she would paste them in a little booklet. And, you know, it was, you know, and
But the book that I saw, it's a collection of her.
It's a fascinating book,
It's a
it is.
collection of her, and she draws diagrams of her teeth.
Yes.
And records everything that the dentist has told her and done to her.
And then the next page would be a recipe.
And here are her menus when she was married, I assume, to Bob Six. She was quite the little housewife and had all the German meatball dish. Wow,
Sounds
I'd
good
like to
to
try
me.
that someday.
And the next page.
The next
is,
page would be Richard Rogers. And
we should say the next page is a recipe, and the next page then is her day-by-day diary of being in Annie Get Your Gun.
Right.
And where she's furious with Richard Rogers
Right.
because he's having an affair with some chorus girl in the show.
Yes.
Oh, and here we go. Annie, get your gun.
On all the rest.
All the rest. And then notes on Annie. She kept diaries on these things, and if she had a little tiff with someone, went in there. Notes on Call Me Madam, and what she was doing also, she recorded Deary with Ray Bolger during that time, and then a vacation. She left New York, da-da-da-da-da. Probably how much it cost. And opened a National Theater, Washington, D.C., closed, didn't miss one performance.
And have you ever considered publishing this stuff of hers? Because it really is a historical record of these great shows.
You know, these things were all put into our possession by her son, Bob Levitt, who's a wonderful man, and he considers us, as in his words, the brothers of his heart. And I would never do anything without his permission, I'm waiting to find out what, you know, we have her ashes.
Yeah, I know. In the closet.
Oh yeah, you held them.
You have the entire
You had them in your
family.
arms. We had the whole family.
We've
Your
got-
mother, Mom and Pop Zimmerman, Little Ethel, Bob Levitt Sr., the father of her children.
Right.
And I think that's it.
how come we missed Mother Teresa? Where is she?
I have her hair. I have a lock of her hair.
Let's clone
You know,
her.
we're going to start charging very soon.
I want to ask you, though, a very sad moment in Ethel Merman's life was when her daughter died.
Oh, God.
Absolutely.
Little
Ethel.
What did little Ethel die of, and do you remember when that happened?
Well, this nearly killed Big Ethel, nearly killed her. You know, in those days, we were not that savvy about drugs. And one doctor would prescribe to a teenager, let's say, barbiturates to sleep. Another one, amphetamines to lose weight. Another one would give you tranquilizers. I knew women who had golden tranquilizer pills on their charm bracelets in those days. You know, I mean, it was just, nobody knew. And nobody knew then that the mix with alcohol was, and it was accidental. I was with Ethel the day she got the coroner's report.
Of her daughters.
And she, I've never, you know, a mother's total despair. And you know, it was a couple of months after her daughter had died. That was, you know, horrific enough, but this brought it all back. And it said accidental overdose. There wasn't enough of anything in there, but it was the liquor. It was the vodka on top of all the things that had been prescribed. Mm. And Ethel said after that, she said, I won't even have an aspirin in my house. Mm. But she had a candle that she lit 24 hours a day, and a lock of her daughter's hair and a picture on a table in her bedroom. And she said, if John F. Kennedy can have an eternal flame, so can my Ethel.
And it was very important to her to know that little Ethel hadn't committed suicide.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
very.
Yes.
Catholic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Catholic.
No, she was Episcopalian.
Oh, sure. Oh, right, yeah.
But the point was, I think it was not a religious thing.
No.
It was as much as just to, you know, suicide versus accident.
I can understand
But the
that.
papers kept saying suicide, 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 which every time it was like a stab in her heart.
Yeah.
Jim, what were her final years like when you spent time with her, and the career was kind of over then? There were no more Broadway shows?
Well, there were no more Broadway shows, but she never stopped doing things. She did the Philharmonic. She always kept her name out there. She did the Johnny Carson show. And
The Love Boat?
The Love Boat, exactly. And you know, a wonderful thing, everything that she did was the best thing, was the most exciting thing. Mm. I think The Love Boat was as exciting as Gypsy to her. Everything was exciting. That was, again, a childlike quality. Yeah. You know, it was all wonderful to her. Or you go to a restaurant and she go, oh, I think they're going to give us a good table. I mean, she really didn't expect. She wasn't entitled. She never felt entitled. She was just.
Did you ever get the sense that she wished that people were writing musicals for her still? When
No.
She didn't.
No,
No regrets. She had no bitterness. She wears mine.
Hello, Dolly was written for her.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the greatest disappointment of Jerry Herman's life, and Jimmy was there, and when he told us, I mean, was when David Merrick and Jerry Herman called her up and said, "We got your next show," and she said, "Sorry, boys, but I'm hanging it up."
Really?
And she wouldn't do it.
But then
she
she
closed.
But then
She closed.
She closed it.
She closed it.
Yeah.
And made it the longest running Broadway show at that time.
That's right.
Anyway, so
And you described the crowds just going crazy.
they did
over
go
Ethel.
crazy.
Oh, you were there for the
We were
closing?
the opening night. We were there.
Oh, and so when she came out, the place was.
Oh my
they
God.
were crazy.
You know that she told me that after having been on Broadway 40 years, she said it was the first time when the audience went so bananas. Yeah. She said it was the first time that she ever lost her concentration.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then she had a stroke. How did she
No, she had a brain tumor, a glioblastoma, but it struck.
It's just like
Suddenly.
that. Yeah.
Do you mind describing that incident?
Well, she was getting ready. The car was waiting for her downstairs to go to take her to the airport because she was going to sing an Irving Berlin medley on the Oscars, on the Academy Awards show. And she called me and she said, "Well, I'm going. Car's downstairs. I'm going to Beverly Hills Hotel, and I'll call you when I get there. Then I'm going to Mary Martin's. She was going to stay with Mary Martin for a few days, and we'll be in touch. Bye." But what she did was, in the last year, she had been screwing up words. And then she'd say, "Oh, I'm all right." And then she'd say it correctly. This time on the phone, she screwed up a word. She said, "Oh, I'm all right." And she screwed it up again. And it just kind of, I just felt uncomfortable. And the next thing she did, she went to the mirror to put on her lipstick before going downstairs, and it just struck a seizure. the tumor just went that little bit too far into her brain. I don't know how that works. And she went to the phone. All she could do was holler because she couldn't speak. And she had to crawl to the door to unlock it so that, you know, because they knew in the hotel that where it came from, that it was her. And I got a call from her lawyer at 7 in the morning the next morning saying that Ethel had had a stroke. She was in the hospital. And then a few minutes later, I got a call from a nurse, and Ethel had brought her telephone book with her. I made sure through all of this, she had a telephone, and she kept pointing to my name. And she wanted the nurse to call me so that when I didn't hear from her that day, I wouldn't be worried.
Right.
She was still thinking of me. And then she couldn't speak. I didn't know that then. And we went to the hospital, and not to be able to communicate, someone who was such a communicator, it was
The greatest voice of all
unbelievable.
time, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
But she was a communicator in so many ways. She was on the phone 5, 10 times a day. She'd write postcards from, if she went to New Jersey, she'd write a postcard.
You've
So
got
she- yeah,
postcards
we-
from everywhere
from
she went.
everywhere.
She'd send you a,
So-
oh, boys.
So she was, just in general, a great communicator.
she-
And to have this happen, of all
Was
things.
she ever able to speak again before she?
Well, they gave her a lot of prednisone and that, and some radiation, but they knew that it was only a matter of giving her a little more time. And when she couldn't speak, she was in the hospital, and we had when she was a little girl, Little Ethel Agnes Zimmerman, she was billed as that when she'd sing for the troops in the First World War.
Right.
And Mr. Zimmerman, her father, would play the piano, and she'd sing, well, there were 2 songs she did. There's one I would kill to hear. It's called When Maggie Dooley Did the Hooly Hooly. Now, if you ever find
We
that
haven't run
song,
across that.
Michael or Susan, I want to be the first one to hear it.
When Maggie Dooley did the
the
Did the
hooly
hula
hooly,
hooly.
sung by Ethel Zimmerman.
Yeah, Little Ethel.
Little
Zimmerman,
Ethel.
right. And the other song that she would do is She's Me Pal, which she'd do sing to her mother in the front row. And of course, a lot of those soldiers were wiping a tear away at that. But when she couldn't speak, and Jimmy had a
Little needlepoint.
needlepoint pillow
Made
made
up
that said, She's Me Pal. So we went to the hospital, and she started to cry, and she put the pillow up to her cheek, and she started to sing. And she sang that song perfectly.
Really?
And that was probably the last performance Ethel Merman ever gave.
Amazing. You have a Christmas tree.
We do have a
You have
Christmas
her
tree.
Christmas tree in your apartment. It was
We do
Ethel's
have it.
Christmas tree. And she
Ethel-
kept the Christmas tree out all year
She had
long,
it
right?
all year long. It was her Christmas tree that she loved and had it all year long. And we have it all year long now too. And we light it every night, and she's always there with us. It's when she died, Bobby said, anything of Mom's that you'd like.
Her
You know,
son.
yeah, Bobby, her son, yeah. Anything you would like, and we both thought individually the tree, because that was her spirit to us, and it gave her such joy all of her life that we thought that's the thing that we'd like to have. It like personified Ethel to us, you know, and it was just
It's just a small little
yeah.
artificial Christmas tree.
a little
on the
artificial,
table.
but to her it was really she loved little things. She got such a kick out of you know, you'd go to a restaurant, she'd go, look at the table that they're taking us to, or she never took anything. We'd go to a movie, you'd stand in line, you know. She never took anything for granted, and just, you can tell I adored her, can't you?
Yes.
I must say, when I was looking through some of these papers with you guys, there were a couple of things which I almost passed out when I looked at them. For example, there is her script for Gypsy,
Yes.
and the line is
You mean the first?
the first
line?
The first line, count to 4 before you start, Louise.
That's right. So here it is. So this is the script, and this is what's written, her script. It says,
Right.
count to 4 before you start, Louise. crossed out, and Ethel crosses it
Right,
out,
oh,
and then
yes.
she writes, "Sing out, Louise."
Right.
And Ethel Merman, I don't know, maybe Arthur Lawrence changed it, who knows? But this is the line, count to 4 before you start, Louise, crossed out, and then next to it,
Sing
Ethel
out,
Merman's
Louise.
handwriting, "Sing out, Louise."
Yeah.
An iconic line.
And the other thing that you have, which is extraordinary, is you have her lyric
yes.
sheet for Rose's Turn at the end.
Right.
And she has notated Jerome Robbins' directions to her. Curtain up,
Right hand up.
right hand up,
Light the lights, left
hand up. She's written it
It's all
Da-da-da,
written.
both hands down.
down. That's right. And then there's a cross to arch, to proscenium arch, grind proscenium arch. It says.
Yes.
It's all there.
It's
Everything.
unbelievable. One of the greatest musical of all time. You actually see
Yeah.
being created. Jerome Robbins is telling you, and she's the
Right,
stenographer
yeah.
that she said, left
Exactly.
hand up, right hand up. It's really remarkable. A lasting memory, something she said to you, of somewhere you went with her that will always stay with you?
Well, there were a lot of.
There were just so many memories. We did so many things, but ordinary things, going to flea markets at a Roosevelt Field, you know, and things like that's the way I remember Ethel. I acknowledge, of course, the great star. She was extraordinary on stage, but going to Roosevelt Field and shopping, you know, looking for.
What was she looking for in the?
Oh,
flea market?
she would buy notepads with someone else's name on them, and we'd say, "But Ethel, that has Shirley Schiltz or something like that." She said, "That's okay. That's okay. I just make notes on it anyway." It just there was such a childlike quality to her.
A lasting memory you have of something she said, a moment you were with her?
Well, you know, I saw real theater magic and a human being in action, and I'll try to make this brief. When she was divorcing Bob Six, and her daughter and I went out to dinner, and we thought, well, she was very depressed.
That was her
and
third
unhappy.
husband or second?
That was number 3.
Number 3.
And she was very upset. So we thought, well, after dinner we'll go to the theater. She was doing Gypsy. I thought we'll go to the theater and we'll see if she wants to go have a bite to eat afterwards or what. And we went. We were standing backstage, and it was just time for the curtain calls. And I saw this. She wasn't a very big woman. I saw this little lady, and she was looking down at the ground. And I swear to you, Michael, Susan, this was one of the saddest faces, saddest demeanors I have ever seen in my life. And everyone was taking their curtain, you know, the chorus and da-da-da and Jack Klugman, everybody. When it came time for her to step out there, it's as though someone switched on every light
On the Christmas
in New York,
Yeah,
in the Christmas
on the
tree.
Christmas-
You're right.
Exactly.
And the electricity was flowing. And it was like that. It was magical. It was true theater magic, something that had kept theater audiences enraptured since 1930. And I saw that magic happen in an instant. I never talked to her about it, but I held it dear to my heart to see this moment.
Yeah, fascinating. And there's one other memento in your collection. I think it's is it Josh Logan who's invited her to a party?
God. Yeah, it was.
It's about 1980, 81.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Cats is about to open, and
Yep.
Josh Logan sends Ethel an invitation, you know, fancy embossed river house, you know, come to my apartment in honor of Andrew Lloyd Webber. And she sends
Well, he wasn't that well known. He was going to do Cats, was going to open on Broadway. So she sends it to me, and with a note that says, "Want to go? Who the hell is he?"
Quite a woman. And it is really remarkable, as Susan started this interview off by saying that she's been dead since 1984.
84.
And still, Time Out magazine, the hipster downtown
Right,
magazine,
right.
says the #1 Broadway diva
There's no
of all
question.
time.
And well, they should.
No
It's
question.
Ethel Merman.
Yeah, that's
All
right. That's
Um,
right.
Tony Cointreau, Jim Russo, friends of ours and great friends of Ethel Merman. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for lending
Thank you.
us some insights into a remarkable woman.
That's
Thank you
wonderful.
so much.
Michael.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you, Susan.
Susan.
Thank
It's been a pleasure. This is a telegram from Billy Rose, the great producer, to Ethel Merman after she did not win the Tony for Gypsy. And he says, I adore Mary Martin, but she wasn't entitled to the Tony Award this year. Yours was far and away the most skillful and talented performance. Billy Rose.
You can sign up for viewer updates at theatertalk.org.
Or you can Twitter us. Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.